ワンオンワンテック始まります。今日のテーマは AI 時代の勝者は誰だです。今日のゲストはシリコンバレーのテック企業でクラウド上のファイル管理サービス大手 Box のアーロン・レビ CEO です。アーロンさんは AI エージェント時代に会社や仕事がどう変わるのか X で毎日のように発信していらっしゃいます。ある意味オピニオンリーダー的存在なんですよ。フォロワーも200万人以上を抱えていらっしゃいます。で、ボックス自身がいろいろな AI モデルを使ったエージェントを開発しているということもあって GPT とかクロード、ジェミニなど最新の AI モデルにいち早く触れる立場にいらっしゃいます。そしてボックスのサービスの売り先は世界中の企業です。その社長たちが今何を考えているのか、会社そして仕事の AI 化の最前線を肌で感じていらっしゃいます。今日はそんなアーロンさんに AI エージェントの未来をたっぷりと聞いていきたいと思います。トピックは3つです。最先端 AI シリコンバレー CEO の本音評価、そして2つ目が仕事の AI 化の究極形態、最後が個人、会社、国家の AI 格差です。Okay, we have Aaron Levy, CEO of Box, on the show. Thank you so much for coming all the way from the Bay Area.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah.I heard you just landed.
I did, just a couple hours ago. Yes.
Couple hours ago. Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh, so busy.
Yeah, we have our conference tomorrow,
Right.
And then I got to fly right back to California. It's crazy times. Things are moving so fast that it's hard to leave for too long.
So the big theme of the interview will be who wins in the AI era.
Oh boy.
And
I think our entire industry wants to know the answer to that question.
Yeah, everyone's still figuring it out.
Yes.
So first part, AI tech CEO's honest review of Frontier AI. You had early access of frontier models from OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google.
Yes.
Always.
Yep.
And you've been posting a lot about your thoughts on all things AI on X. You have, 2 million followers on X? From your experience, what feels fundamentally different in the latest generation of AI models? What are they ultimately capable of as of now?
I think that the category of models that we've recently seen, the Gemini 3 Plus series, so 3.1, 3.5, the GPT series of 5 plus, so 5.4, 5.5, and then Opus 4.6, 4.7, 4.8. That series, what you have for all of these types of models is they've all kind of reached a point of getting incredible, first of all, at coding. So they're very, very good at coding tasks. They're much better at these advanced reasoning use cases. They're quite good for a number of kind of specialty fields like legal, healthcare, life sciences, finance. And so what's happening is these models, they're obviously very good at coding, they're good at using tools, they're good at using computers, but they also have these industry expertise focus areas, and it can use the tools and have that expertise to go and execute on much more long-running tasks and work in the enterprise. So the big difference is it's no longer just you kind of asking a question like what's the weather or what's the history of some particular thing where it just has to like look at Wikipedia and pull out some information. This is much more of a task of I want you to go analyze 100 documents and pull out all of the key details from all of them. It's that kind of style of work that these models are now capable of.
Do you see any the gap between those models, like in terms of capabilities?
Between each of them? I think they're honestly all so close that for 80 to 90% of use cases, you're going to be able to get the same level of performance. Where they break down is much more of the in-depth tasks. So some people will say something like Opus is better at front-end web development, or something like GPT 5.5 is better at back-end web development. Or some model is a little bit better tuned for legal work than another model. And so I think by industry and by domain, each model can be a little bit different, mostly because of what the data is that those models are trained on, and then their post-training process and what they kind of optimize for. So you're always making a trade-off when you go and train an AI model. You're making some kind of trade-off on what do you want the model to be really good at, because you only have so much time and there's only so much compute that you have access to. So these models have to kind of have some degree of specialization, and what we're seeing is the latest round of models, the specialization tends to be in coding-related activities. But what's incredibly exciting is that the rate of improvement of these models is really not slowing down. Every single new version of a model, we tend to be seeing 2, 3, 5 point improvements on the model's capability. So the rate of progress and innovation has not slowed down at all.
Why do you think they're not slowing down?
Well, you have an incredible amount of talent that is aimed at these problems. You have a tremendous amount of capital. So these companies have massive amounts of compute now. They're able to buy large amounts of data sets from these data labeling vendors. And I think these teams are getting better and better at new methodologies and new techniques to make their models better. So you have a lot of great kind of factors to go and improve what these models are capable of. And I think most of the rumors and the conversation in the industry is that this is going to still be a year where we're seeing continuous breakthroughs. If you look at the model Mythos from Anthropic, it represents another step change in security capability and in coding capabilities. So once that model is broadly available, I think you're going to see enterprises again sort of see that there's all new capability that is available inside of these AI models.
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion around Mythos.
Yes.
And especially also in Japan.
Yes.
Like governments or financial institutions are talking about it.
Yes.
But what was your first reaction to Mythos when it was announced first?
First reaction was, how do I get access to this immediately?
Right.
And
do you have access right now?
we're working on trying to get access. Okay. So the first round of companies were more government institutions, a few cybersecurity players, Apple, et cetera. But I think it's now going to be rolling out in a continuous fashion from there. But I think to me, I actually wasn't particularly surprised by the capability jump. I think it's mostly just the feeling of, okay, this is the rate of progress is continuing, and we're going to have access to this incredible intelligence that we can go and apply to all these amazing things in our organizations.
How faster do you feel the process of software development gets after all the frontier models came out?
I think it depends on what type of software you're developing and where in the stack you are. So I think we have some teams that are probably shipping 2 to 3 times faster in terms of their rate of velocity, and then we have some teams that maybe are only moving 20% faster. And the reason for that difference is that some parts of our code base is just more oriented to what these models are good at, or it's safer to be able to just use agentic coding at a much faster rate because the risk profile of what you're working on is sort of more contained. It's a lot easier if you or I use an agent to go improve a new front end feature of an application because it's not changing the fundamental business logic. It can't leak data. It can't change the permission structure of our tool. It's just improving the user experience. That's very easy to get then huge agentic coding gains from. Whereas if you go kind of deeper into the back end, you could potentially create a lot of risk if you have an agent just go run over millions and millions of lines of code and make lots of updates that you don't review. That would be very dangerous. So there's less sort of performance gains that you can get in that part of the stack. But ultimately, I think we will easily be at a point in the next year or two where most companies should be delivering 2, 3 to 5 times more software than they were pre-AI.
Right. I was wondering what was the most impressive thing you've seen a frontier model do in a real business workflow?
With our customers, we're seeing these incredible use cases where you give us just a large amount of unstructured data. Contracts, marketing assets, invoices, financial documents, and you want to be able to have an agent go and process all of that information. You want the agent to be able to read the documents and extract data from them, go and process all of the documents inside that organization, be able to extract intelligence and insights from that data. So we are seeing some great use cases around these models and these agents being able to just read documents like a person would, and then be able to, again, identify and pull out the kind of key insights from that data. That opens up a tremendous amount of use cases in the enterprise. Client onboarding, insurance claim processing, getting intelligence from our contracts, being able to do due diligence across documents far faster. So those are the kind of use cases that we're quite excited by and that we see every day in the enterprise.
So there's a concept or there's a word called SaaS apocalypse.
Yes, I don't like that word.
You don't like that word.
It's not my number one word, yeah.
But how do you think about it?
Yeah.
And, so that's basically the idea. AI agents could make many SaaS products obsolete.
Yes.
But is that a risk or is it an overreaction?
I think it's mostly an overreaction. I think there are some areas of software where that is a risk, and it's important to acknowledge that. I think some parts of software, if your value proposition was largely sort of single user at the just interface layer, that's a tough spot to be, because the agent itself will just handle a lot of the things that your software did. It could answer the question that you wanted. It could analyze the data that you wanted. It could generate an interface very, very efficiently. So that kind of software, I think, is at risk. The kind of software that's not at risk, and I would actually argue the opposite, I would actually say the kind of software where there's going to be tremendous upside because of AI, are really systems of record that hold on to the critical data in your organization and define a lot of your business processes and your workflows within that software. Because what's going to happen is agents need some form of guardrails to be able to work within. You can't just have an agent run around and grab any data that it wants and make any decision and execute any kind of task, because that will create a major security issue in your organization. So you need agents to be riding on top of some kind of backbone that is protecting the agent, protecting the data, making sure the workflow is sort of maintained and adhered to. And so systems of record, I would actually argue, become more valuable over time. That's companies like Salesforce and ServiceNow and Workday. Could be Snowflake, could be Databricks. Obviously, what we're doing with unstructured data at Box, we're very focused on that. So in that world, I don't think that, first of all, it's very hard to vibe code these types of technologies. But even if you did, the scale of these platforms, the network effects, the fact that multiple people are working together in many of these systems, the data structures that go into them, it's just less likely that a company is going to want to go and vibe code those technologies. And you have some of the best executing software companies in that category as well. Snowflake is executing just unbelievably well. Databricks is executing unbelievably well. We obviously are like right on top of every aspect of technology, and so it'd be hard to imagine that you're going to be able to go vibe code something that could go and effectively replace all of the work that these kinds of companies are producing.
So the evolution of frontier models and the evolution of systems of record is a sort of a separate story.
I think it's a separate story, but they connect, which is when I want to go and deploy agents in my enterprise, and I say to an agent, and it's funny, right before we were recording, I kicked off an agent to go use Claude Cowork to go and talk to data in Box and Salesforce. So what I want in that case is I want a really powerful frontier model in the form of Claude Cowork, as an agent, and I want a really agentic and agent-forward system of record that the agent can go and talk to. So you actually, you really are on these parallel paths where our core software systems are going to only get better and better, and they're going to get more headless, and then you have agents that can go and use these tools in a much more effective fashion over time as well.
What do you mean by headless?
Headless is where it's no longer you or I just logging into software and looking at an interface and pressing some buttons. It's us asking a question of an AI agent. That AI agent goes off and uses APIs of the software tools that it wants to work with, and it serves up the answer to that user. The reason it's headless is that you never see the software in that experience. The software is just behind the scenes and basically providing a whole bunch of functionality to the user via the agent that, again, the user never will see any interface for.
So that's a world where the user interface is not going to matter anymore.
That's a world where that's a use case where the user interface doesn't matter. The thing, and you know, I think the debate in technology, we tend to be a little bit more binary or zero sum about it, where we kind of think like, oh well, if things move headless, then it means that they move away from interfaces, and I don't actually think that's what happens. Just as when things move to mobile, I didn't use my desktop any less. Think about that. When when I use my mobile app, I do some certain actions on my mobile app, but then I hop over to a computer a minute later and do something else. So that's the kind of analogy to think of for the future of software, but with agents. Sometimes you'll just ask an agent to go kick off some research that you're doing, but then the agent will come back and it'll say, okay, I found these 3 things, and then you'll click it, and then you're going to go into an interface. And there's no reason for that interface to not be the you know, obviously hopefully modern, but typical software interface. You would click out into it, and the agent would take you to the resource that you were looking for. And in that way, it's very complementary to have a headless agent and enterprise software work together in one sort of unified experience.
Right. You just said you were trying to do something with Cloud Cowork. What did you want to do? What did you want to get done?
It's a random research thing, but I wanted to be able to do some customer analysis. And so I needed an agent to go and look through a bunch of documents and look through a bunch of Salesforce records and be able to go and you know, produce some information for me. And that's the kind of typical task that I give agents all day long. I'm usually doing some kind of research 5 times a day.
Right.
Across any kind of topic.
So that led to the second part, the end game of AI-powered work. So if a company fully embraces AI agents, a whole company embraces AI agents, how does the way people work fundamentally change?
Yeah, I think the biggest mental model to have is it turns every individual contributor into a manager of agents. And so that's just like the core idea. I go from, I go from everything that I want to do, I have to personally go and do. I have to type everything out. I have to research everything. I have to read every document. That's how work happened. I was rate limited by my ability to go and execute. And here's what's interesting. Managers, it's a different paradigm. If you're a manager, you're no longer rate limited by how much you can execute. You're rate limited by how many people you have that can go execute for you. That's what agents let you do. So agents let you, as now an individual contributor, have a fleet of resources that you can deploy against any task that you want. You could deploy them against making marketing campaigns. You could deploy them against researching markets to enter. You could deploy them against generating code. You can deploy them on any topic in the organization. And so the way the work shifts is we will basically have the future of the individual contributor is going to be managing agents, and they are going to be maybe having 3 agents or 5 agents or 10 agents that are constantly doing things for them inside the organization.
Is everyone going to be sort of an individual contributor who manages AI agents?
I think yes. You will still have people managers as well, because I think the core of the structure of an organization won't change as much as some people think, because at the end of the day, it's still helpful to have somebody who says, hey, you could do this a little bit better this way, or hey, I was in another meeting and this team over there is working on something, and I can bring that information back to you to go and also work on. And so that's the role of a manager. And so you probably don't lose the idea that you have a manager, and the manager has a set of people, and below that set of people there's another set of people, but then below those people are a bunch of agents. So I think you should just assume that the rough structure of an organization doesn't change as much as maybe some think, but there's going to be agents everywhere in the company just constantly executing on our behalf.
Okay. Well, I thought that if everyone has agents, So what was the point of the people having people's team, the team of people?
Well, I mean, just think about the other case. Let's say you had a 10,000 person company. What would it mean for a 10,000 person company to only be individual contributors and agents? Who would make the decision about what the people should be doing?
Right.
So, like, you have to have some degree of kind of these locus points of accountability. You need some kind of point where information can be kind of shared between people. And so that's why you tend to, that's effectively why the org chart evolves the way it does. You want, your company, you want one marketing strategy. You don't want 50 marketing strategies. So why is there a CMO in a company? It's because you want somebody who is basically, you are on the line to ensure you have one unified approach to marketing, and everything kind of has to roll up to that person.
But what if we don't need 10,000 people company anymore if we have agents?
This is like the main debate in the Valley right now, and I think it's first of all, it's a very provocative question. I think one thing I find interesting is that if you look at the companies that are most AI forward, which would obviously be the AI labs, they're hiring thousands of people.
Right.
So why is that? Well, because think about it. When you let's say that one day your team woke up and you said, I really want to use Codex today from OpenAI. Okay, and so use Codex. Okay. Now, let's say that Claude Code has a new feature, and let's say you're the Anthropic corporation. So you launch this new feature, and you're Anthropic, and you have this new feature, Claude Code, and you have this big company right here that is using Codex. How are you going to tell that company about your new feature? You'll do a YouTube demo, you'll tweet it, you'll put up a web page, but guess what? What if they don't see any of that? What do you do next?
Just go visit them.
So who's going to visit them?
Sales.
A person.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you sort of very quickly understand that's why we have people. Because my competition has a person that's meeting with that customer. And so if they're going to meet with that customer and they're going to try and sell them this new capability, what happens if I don't meet with them? Then the customer is going to be making some decision based on the meeting they had with one of the companies, not getting a full picture of all the different vendors they could go work with. And so you sort of you end up in this spot, which is companies are not 90% margin companies. They're 20 or 30% margin companies because we all have to staff up to be competitive and to help our customers and to make sure everybody sees our latest features and to help them adopt those features. And that adds up pretty quickly. And this is why some of the fastest growing jobs in the Valley right now are things like salespeople or forward deployed engineers or consulting team people, because the reason for that is that all of the change that you need to go do as an enterprise to adopt AI is not easy. So you need people from the company to actually go and help you with this.
Yeah. Wow. So not all of the work is not digital.
It's not. And so. I have almost never had a good experience with a digital support agent. I've had a couple good experiences. But for the most part, it's not that enjoyable to talk to a chatbot. You eventually want to talk to a person who they should come with new ideas for you and your business. They should know the right questions to ask you. Those are just still hard for AI systems to get really good at.
Right. So you need a person, you need people's team as long as you're selling something to a person.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, 100%. And so that now think about all the jobs that you're selling to a person. Financial services, healthcare, therapy, any kind of B2B product where there's a person on the other end that has to buy your thing. This is why you're going to have tons of jobs. And that's just the go-to-market and sales side. Let's go to engineering as an example. So the AI labs are hiring hundreds of engineers still. Why are they hiring hundreds of engineers in a world where they're building models to automate engineering? Well, it's because It's not, I mean, the code writes itself, but that doesn't mean that it writes perfect code itself. It means it writes code itself. And so who is steering the code production?
Right.
Who's making sure that the code is good code? Who is reviewing it?
Right.
Who's checking for bugs? Who's making sure that when Mythos comes out, it's being deployed to go fix security issues? That's all people.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
I want to sort of going back to the AI-powered work. I was wondering how has your work changed compared to, I would say, a year ago, 2 years ago? What kind of tasks did AI eliminate, or what do you personally no longer do without AI?
Well, I kind of represent a case of almost all net new things that I do with AI. I have not really replaced that many things with AI. What I do is way more stuff because of AI. So I prototype products multiple times by myself, multiple times a week. I research new market opportunities multiple times a week. I study the business models of competitors multiple times a week. I analyze customer market categories that I want to go after multiple times a week. So it's much more of doing all this new work that, frankly, I'm exhausted because I'm just like signing myself up to more and more work. But it's because I have a fun time using the technology, and there's always these things that I've wanted to go and do that I just haven't had the time for personally. But now AI lets me actually go and do those things. So it's very weird. But my job looks almost exactly the same as it did 5 years ago, except I do more stuff. Whereas 5 years ago, you probably would have thought AI is going to come and you're going to like eliminate half your job, and then you're going to like figure out new things to do with the other half. And it's like, no, actually, like my job looks exactly the same in the core of the job, and then I just added stuff.
Right.
And I just added more things to it.
But you can just ask the team to prototype things and the research about market, but how does doing on your own make a difference?
Well, because at 10 p.m. at night I can do it on my own, and so I can there's a cost to asking your team to do those things, because I have to now decide, like, is this idea really worth that person's time? Like, I don't want to bother them with this random idea. Like, it's going to take them 5 hours. Like, so there's so much stuff that you never did before, because you would not have had it wouldn't have felt appropriate to ask somebody else to do that kind of work in the past.
Right. Okay. So we've been talking about how companies use AI, but I think the way bigger bottleneck is now token cost.
Yes.
And I think that's what you've been talking about on X and elsewhere. So how should companies think about it? And is it a temporary issue or the structural issue?
I think it's a structural issue. I think that what's happening is as we moved from kind of chatbots to agents, it's a really big jump. From AI that was kind of relatively low cost to AI that could cost maybe 100 times more than the chat box experience. So once we made that jump, you have this new issue, which is, well, it's no longer like $20 per user per month to use this software. It could cost hundreds or thousands of dollars per user per month. So how do I decide who gets access to the technology? How do I decide which workflows we apply it to? How do I decide which models to use so we can figure out, do we need maybe a lower quality model for certain kinds of tasks at some point? So token budgeting is going to become a massive topic in every organization. And there's this term called tokenomics that's now emerging around this, like what are the economics of your tokens? I think you're going to have, one thing that's pretty clear is that you're going to have a need for a layer oftentimes between the model and the work you're doing that is a neutral layer.
Neutral. Okay.
Because what you want to be able to do is swap in different models into your workflow.
Is it like a model router?
Model router, or just a plain old software company that is not one of the labs. Because imagine if you put all of your workflow into one of the labs. That lab is incentivized to spend the most amount of tokens.
Right.
But if you put your workflow into a software layer that is not incentivized by that, but incentivized by just keeping you happy, then what that model can do, what that router or neutral layer can do, is just route the tokens and route the workloads to the more efficient model. So there's a company called Factory. They just launched something yesterday. I don't know if you saw this. Which is Factory Router, and what it does is it routes your workload to the different model provider that sort of is most effective for the task. Sometimes that'll be Claude Code, sometimes that'll be GPT 5.5, sometimes it's Kimi or Quen, and you can then use different levels of capability on the use case.
So that kind of companies sort of develop a UI for user companies and they do the routing in the back.
So in that case, it's for coding, but you're going to see this for everything. You would see model routing in legal work. You'll see model routing in healthcare. So I think in general, you're going to always have some kind of layer between the model and the ultimate end task.
Is that something Box also wants to do?
We already kind of do it. We just don't do full sort of intent-based routing. You just choose a different model for the task you're trying to do. And so we do act as a layer between the model and the end workload, but you're kind of predetermining that in advance. So it's not automatically routing on demand.
What about token costs in your company right now?
They're going up. So because we're users of the technology, we're very happy users of these tools. So I would say that the costs are definitely ramping, and but we're really happy about it because we're getting the productivity gains that we're looking for. We have a Slack channel, for instance, that everybody's sharing the best practices at all times about their use of AI. So that's one great example of we're trying to make sure that everybody has a shared understanding of what to use the tools for and how they should be using them. We're pretty good at assessing what's like a high ROI use case in our organization. So I feel very good about the ROI we're getting with AI.
So there's no leaderboard.
There's no leaderboard.
Talk maxing.
There's no leaderboard. We have actually a spreadsheet, but we don't talk about it. We don't publish it. It's just more for trivia. But we're not token maxers.
Why do people do token maxing?
Well, first of all, Silicon Valley is it's a funny place sometimes. So I think first of all, I think it's a pretty temporary phenomenon. I don't think it's going to last. But I think it was a phenomenon driven by, in this case, Meta mostly, but other companies have taken on versions of it on this idea of just we're going to take advantage of this new abundant intelligence, and we're going to make sure we use it as much as possible. We're going to make sure there's as much rapid change in this direction as possible, and then to do that, you just gamify it. So these are just companies that kind of gamified the adoption of AI.
Right. Before moving on to the final part, I have one question. I think another bottleneck for AI is context.
Yeah.
And I think the knowledge are pretty fragmented across all the systems.
Yes.
Or even in people's head.
Yes.
People's mind.
Yes.
So how do companies solve that context problem?
Well, this is sort of the business that we're in, so we get to see it every single day. The big challenge for agents is they need to have access to the data in your organization to be effective. So what that means is they need to know what are your sales materials, what are your marketing assets, what are your HR documents, what are your engineering files. And the only way that they can be effective is if they can go find the right information, use that data to answer questions and to be able to automate workflows around. So context is effectively the number one problem in getting agents to work in your organization. So we built a platform to make it ideally as easy as possible for agents to get that context and be able to help you do useful work with your data. But it's a bunch of stuff like making sure your access controls are kind of correctly administered. It's making sure that you've got the right security and governance policies set up. So it's a bunch of work like that that you have to go and just do very thoughtfully, and that's the business that we're in.
I was wondering if we have to the record all the meetings or talking.
I'm not sure that you have to record everything. I think it's probably better to give agents the most important stuff, not necessarily everything, because agents they actually don't do that well with unlimited context. They do a good job when they have a precise amount of context for the task. So let's say you were in like 5 hours of meetings, but only, let's say, 10 bullets worth of information were the right bullets. You actually wouldn't want to give the agent 5 hours of context,
right?
Because it will totally get confused. It'll get lost. It'll sort of pull from the wrong part of the meeting. So it's far better that we start to document the most effective decisions, the most important information, not necessarily everything that we're doing.
Okay. Let's move on to the final part, AI divide between individual companies and nations. So people keep talking about AI is going to wipe away jobs.
Yes.
Lots of things. And like they fear that white collar jobs could disappear because of AI. But how do you think about it? Do you think the fear is justified, exaggerated, or simply too early to judge?
It's a new technology. It sort of feels like, wow, it's doing what a person does. So justifiably, I would be worried about that. But I think it's exaggerated in the sense that it's not going to happen the way that people think. And there's a bunch of reasons. Some of it actually goes back to what we were talking about before. Why is Anthropic hiring salespeople? Why is OpenAI hiring salespeople? It's because we want people want to work with other people, and no matter how good the AI is, we still want to know that there's somebody behind there that I can hold accountable, that has my interests in mind when they're doing things. That there's a certain shared trust because we're the, we all know that we're humans that are just trying to move things forward. We don't totally understand what the agent is trying to do, what its goals are. So there's a lot of reasons why people just automatically are going to be much more relevant in the future than what a lot of people think. But then there's some very just practical reasons. These agents, they need to be steered in the right direction. You need to review their work. The longer the task is that they're doing, the worse they are at the task, which means you need some human oversight. So there's some very practical limitations of agents that just sort of make it so you can't replace everybody. But then there's a third reason that I think is just the biggest of all, which is historically, every time we make technology more efficient, it sort of creates more demand and more surplus for that thing, more interest in that thing. So, when we went from the mainframe to the mini computer to the PC to the mobile phone, every single time we did that, we saw a 10x increase in the amount of demand for that type of technology. So, just do that same kind of analogy now with what we think AI replaces. AI makes really good marketing assets, let's say. So what's going to happen next? Everybody is going to want to have marketing assets for their website or for their small business or for their new idea. Well, unless you think that everybody's just going to be prompting agents all day long across every single thing that they do, which I just am skeptical of, eventually what will happen is that small business will hire a marketer who will use AI to automate their marketing. But they wouldn't. That small business is going to hire a marketer in a way that they would not have hired that marketer before, because before it would have been too expensive, because they would have had to hire like 3 marketers. You can't just hire like one marketer because they need to do graphic design and they need to do campaigns. They need to do websites. But now actually one marketer might be able to do 3 or 4 of those things. So for the first time ever, then that small business can go and hire a marketer. Or hire an engineer to go and build technology for them. So what I think is going to happen is as you make it much more efficient to do all of these things, legal work, marketing work, financial analysis, engineering work, you're going to have way more business actually demand those kinds of capabilities in the economy. That's what's going to create all these jobs.
Yeah. I think it's like hiring one person, it's going to mean hiring a team.
Yes.
Well, that makes sense. If an ordinary office worker, what should they learn on the road ahead?
I think playing with these technologies is just a very good thing. I think you just want to be using these tools. So downloading Claude Code or Cowork and just using it constantly, I think is very helpful. You'll just see the full power and potential of this stuff. Connecting it to different data sources like Box or Slack or other systems and using it to like understand the work that you're doing. Building prototypes of websites and marketing assets and product ideas. You'll get a feel for what the potential is. You'll also get a feel for what maybe doesn't work as well, and some things that maybe were not as automatable as you had thought previously. So I think just getting really deep in the technology is a very good thing.
You think anybody in any industry?
100%.
Like whether that's tech or not?
Every industry.
Oh.
Name an industry, I'll tell you what they could do.
Healthcare.
Oh man, that's the easiest one.
Construction?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh.
I mean, you use this stuff to do all of the planning of a project and be able to do much more research on that project. Load up CAD designs and blueprints and have it analyze those. Great use cases in construction.
So not just knowledge workers.
Every worker.
Frontline workers.
I can't think of a worker that can't be aided by AI.
I mean, security, like not like cybersecurity, like physical security.
Sure, security footage, and trying to detect anomalies across different security incidents.
Right. So, all
everything is going to be impacted by AI.
So, at the company level, will AI also widen the gap between organizations?
Between the two companies or inside of a company?
Between two companies.
Oh, 100%. I think if you're an AI native company, and maybe that's what I should have been answering, but an AI native company will move so much faster than a non-AI native company. And so if you're a non-AI native company, you should be figuring out what is in your way and how do you unblock that so you can be as AI native as possible.
Right. But I feel like if token cost of compute access and model quality determine productivity, does that mean like money, power, and resources will concentrate in AI labs?
Yes.
Do you concerned about it?
I'm a little bit concerned, but I do believe that there's a good market dynamic and market force. So because what can happen is as that happens, you'll just have new competitive forces because somebody will say, maybe we should be the company that delivers low cost and frontier intelligence, and they'll try and lower the cost of that AI so more people can adopt it. So I think over time that will get kind of sorted out for the most part. But yeah, there will be definitely concentration in kind of 3, 4, 5 companies, for no question. Okay. Just as we've had in cloud computing. In America, there's only historically been 3 cloud computing vendors. Now there's kind of 4. But basically everything you do on the entire internet runs through 3 companies. Google, Microsoft, and Amazon.
Right.
Everything you do on the entire internet. Now there's kind of 4 with Oracle. But that's it. So like that's concentration. I think intelligence, we're going to see the same thing, but with a little bit, maybe some extra players in the mix as well.
Is it a good thing or bad thing?
It's kind of an inevitable thing.
I have last question.
Sure.
About Japan.
Yes.
It's been said, or I feel like Japan is falling behind the AI race. What do you? So you visit Japan every once in a year, and what do you think about Japan in terms of AI adoption?
Well, I don't have the perception that it's fallen behind. When I meet with customers in Japan, and we're very fortunate to serve some of the largest enterprises, in Japan. I compare the Japanese adoption of AI to what we see in the U.S. and honestly, there's, some of your companies are ahead, some maybe are kind of in the same spot. But I don't get a sense of that there's any kind of falling behind. I came from a meeting where the entire conversation was Claude Cowork plus Box, and this is a 100,000 person company. So that's the exact kind of conversation I'd be having in the U.S. right now. So almost perfectly parallel conversations.
Okay. I guess we are too humble.
I think you might be. Maybe that's the issue. I mean, you know what's it? And you know what? It's interesting about Japan. Actually, in America, I don't actually know your stats. I know China's stats, but in Japan, I would guess that AI is seen more optimistically than the U.S. Is that a rough assumption?
I think people in the U.S. are more concerned.
We hate AI.
Yeah,
So
they hate AI. Yeah.
We hate AI because in the U.S. we have a whole group of people that basically are anti-AI, or they actually, amazingly, ironically, some of them were the creators of AI, and they hate AI. And so, and they go around everywhere scaring everybody about AI.
Yeah.
And I don't perceive that is as pervasive in Japan. I think the deepest technologists in Japan, I think, tend to be pretty optimistic on AI.
Right.
And so when I look at the automation, and you guys have a history of automation that exceeds
like
most factories and automotive and the IBO. Little robot dogs so I think I've always perceived Japan to be at the forefront of technological automation in the industrial sense. So I think it was very natural for that to carry over then to intelligence automation as well. And so I think your guys' adoption is right up there with some of the best companies in the US.
You must have talked to all the CEOs, CTO, CIO in the US or also in Japan.
Yeah.
You don't get a different impression from Japanese companies.
No.
Compared to US companies.
No.
Okay.
I think there's a deep appreciation and excitement and fascination around AI in Japan. And at the CEO and the CIO level, the US and Japan look very similar. I think as you go down in the organization, the US is probably more skeptical than Japan even.
Okay. They're skeptical. That's interesting.
But that's what's showing up in the research reports. So AI is sort of not as exciting in America because it's perceived to be this thing that's like taking your job, taking your autonomy. Taking your agency, and that's just a problem that the AI industry has from a branding standpoint.
Okay. Very last question, sorry.
Yes.
Do you think there should be the concept like AI native country, native nation? I think the AI gap between country could widen.
Yes.
Because of the difference of the resources, or I don't know, the affordable, if they can afford the talking costs or not, sort of thing, can widen the gap.
I think that will happen. That will certainly happen. And then the countries that can generate energy and electricity and build data centers, I think that's a pretty good position to be in. I think countries should be pretty thoughtful about what are you doing to produce AI or be able to at least run inference on AI in your country. I think that's going to become a new a source of competitive advantage in the future. So I'd be very worried if I were a country not capable of building data centers right now, because that would also increase the separation. So yeah.
I don't want to keep you staying for too long, but thank you very much.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. ここまでボックス CEO のアーロン・レビーさんと AI 時代の勝者は誰だというテーマでお送りしてまいりました。本日もご視聴いただきありがとうございます。ぜひチャンネル登録と高評価、そしてクロスディグの公式 X のフォローもお願いいたします。さらにニュースレターの配信も始めています。概要欄からぜひご登録ください。